My name is Eitan Chatayat, and welcome to I'm That podcast, where I get to talk to some pretty incredible people. Some are friends and colleagues, some are clients, and some are people I haven't even met yet. On I'm That, we'll hear from them about who they are, what they do and why, stuff they love or hate, mistakes they've made, victories they've had. They're all known for something, but by the time we're through, the hope is they'll have revealed some things we didn't know about them. Our talk may be deep, profound, funny, who knows really. One thing for sure, it'll be interesting and honest. So if you're up for that, thank you for joining me on I'm That, and here we go. JopauL is many things. Amongst them, a hip-hop artist with 20 years in the game, straight out of Staten Island in New York City. After making waves in the music and hip-hop scene, he took his skills to JP Morgan, learning the ins and outs of the corporate world. He's a master of reinvention, now living at the crossroads of music, business, and social media influence, which is actually where we met. JopauL runs the Verified podcast, where he shares life-changing stories from unconventional folks. His raw, no-holds-barred style keeps it real, and he's never afraid to call out the BS. Fans love him for his music, his big personality, and his knack for rolling with life's punches. These days, JopauL is fighting the good fight, the very good fight, the critical fight for the Jewish people on Instagram, where his relentless energy, unfiltered honesty, and incredible advocacy has inspired the masses. We've become friends. JopauL, my man, how you doing?
Doing phenomenal. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure just to get your time for us to speak together.
Well, it's just an excuse for us to talk, really. We're just like recording it, but
Exactly. So it's like we're working, so.
Yeah, we're not working at all. Are you at Staten Island right now, or where are you at?
I am in Staten Island, also known as Shaolin.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone even calls it that anymore, but I mean, it was a part of Wu-Tang back in the day, and that's how they nicknamed Staten Island Shaolin. So, I guess it just stuck with me. So anytime someone says, yeah, are you from Staten Island? Say, yeah, Shaolin, baby. Hooty hoo.
Hooty hoo. So Joe, before we get into this any further, can you just tell people kind of like quickly where they can follow you? Because I want them to be able to follow you.
Well, I do appreciate that, because in this day and age, it's all about following. So make sure you follow me on Instagram. That's at I am JopauL. And make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is also I am JopauL. There's the link in the bio. Or you could just search on Google JopauL. That's JopauL. There is no E in it. And make sure you put the IAM before the JopauL. You dig? One love.
Well, listen, I think that, look, the audience for this podcast is actually not typically the Jewish audience. It's actually Fortune 500 companies. And what's amazing about the plight of the Jewish people right now in this whole crazy mess that we're all in, this crazy fucking mess that we're all in, is that all sorts of Jewish people have kind of like come together. And you and I are two such people. Like, if you would have told me that we would have just somehow become mates, colleagues, brothers in arms, you would have laughed. You would have laughed your ass off. I mean, and I'm looking at you right now. I mean,
listen, I don't know if you remember the line from Rocky where it's like, well, I love almost everybody, know. And so if you're a cool person, it's like, I like it. It's like, I tend to stay away from the people that are, let's see, to put it gingerly, dicks. So, and you're not. So it's like, if you're a cool person, doesn't matter from what walks of life, you are. I've never been, I guess that's part of the Jewish spirit also. It's like knowing what it's like to be the underdog or the person that's left out or singled out. So you kind of have a sense of, I don't want to say camaraderie or togetherness or like, a mutual common interest, in life itself. So I guess it goes without saying that if you're a good person and you were raised right, you're gonna generally be, the universe is going to attract those type of people for you to be familiar with. So, and I'm glad the universe did bring us together.
No, I'm glad
you're a hell of an individual.
I'm just another guy, but but in all seriousness, it is kind of funny. I mean, when you have this kind of crazy social media explosion of Jewish narrative, and we've made all of us have made some very unlikely bedfellows, if you know what I mean. That's part of the beauty of what we're all going through, which is something that we can talk about. But before we start talking about anything, this podcast is called I'm That. And it's not because of I'm That Jew. It's really a launching pad for us to just like open up the conversation with a question. So I'm going to ask a question, and I just want you to complete the sentence if you can. So here we go. JopauL, please complete this sentence. I'm that.
I'm that JopauL the Zionist. I'm Israel Chayes shit. Hammer of Judea like Yehuda Maccabeus. How's that?
I honestly think that's I kind of guessed that you would do something like that, but I didn't think.
And
you know
that was the best one out of all of your guests.
It was.
Don't even front.
I'm saying that was the thing. I was like, I kind of guessed that you would do it, and then I was like, he's not going to do it. That's kind of like, it's a bit too predictable, and it really was great. So it was the best. So you got to tell me, where are you coming from, man, with that?
I guess just knowing the history, I mean, without boring, your audience, which is probably not, of the Jewish history audience.
You're not boring anyone. So just say everything you want to say.
Okay. Well, it started when I was one. When learning Jewish history and learning the strength of the Maccabees and, what, Yehuda Maccabee, meant to the people, as well as how he was feared by the opposition. There's almost a sense of enviousness. And I feel like there is some commonality that I feel exactly like he felt during that revolt. And what it took to get people to actually be on his side and the lengths that he had to go. For lack of better words, he took a whole bunch of Hellenized, Christianized Jews, and, well, not Christianized, but they were not monotheistic anymore. They were, praying to deities and polytheistic, but he took a whole bunch of them out into the desert and forcefully converted them by circumcising them. So I don't know if he actually did it himself, but the fact that he would go to those lengths to remind people, this is who you are, and we have to get away from that. And this is the covenant that Abraham made with Hashem, in order to be able to, signify that we are his people. And that's the agreement that we made, which, you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, okay, what makes Jews so great? Okay, so Abraham had a covenant with God where we would cut off a piece of our dick. It's like, I can understand why people would think we're a fucked up religion, but ultimately, for sanitary purposes, I guess it's healthier, but we only found that out recently. But yeah, it's like, okay, the Jewish religion, that's how we really stand out. We're the circumcised dicks.
We're not the only ones.
Again, now we were the first, that actually built our whole, that was the covenant that Abraham made with God, for his people. Listen, God, you know what? We're your chosen people. What we're going to do for you, we're going to cut off the tips of our dicks. You don't see, nothing says loyal, by getting cut from a moil.
No, did you just make that? Did you just make that up?
Just off the top of my head.
You see, that's the thing. So people, this is the
get
thing.
Get it just off the top of my head?
Yeah,
I'm going to keep going with this.
I think we all got that loud and clear. This is the thing I love about you, though, because you're a creator. I'm a creator, but not like you are. And one thing that I don't think a lot of people know about you, and now I'm speaking specifically to the Jewish audience. Let's just put some things in perspective. October 7th happened. You're a bit of a jack of all trades, hustler, businessman, musician, producer, writer. You have your own podcast, lots of things, and probably a whole bunch more that you'll tell us about. But you dove into Jewish advocacy, right? That's what you started doing. And I don't know how much people really know about who you are and what you do besides the things that they see. And that's what I want to kind of
dive into.
Yeah, I just where are you from? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up?
Well, originally I'm from Judea, via Babylon. Then we went back to Judea. Then we did a slight stint in Rome. Then we were casted out of there. We ended up in Spain and Portugal. Then we were exiled from there, and had to settle amongst the Ottoman Empire and live as second-class citizens like a bunch of assholes, weren't allowed to ride horses. And then we were banished, up into the bowels of Northern Europe, where we got stuck there for a little while, and they bounced us around between all the Slavic and, the Prussian and Germanic, and then and then Polish and Russian. And then we ended up back in Israel somehow, and a lot of us ended up in America. So that's where I'm from. And people don't know that. And that's what I need people to know about me, is in telling them about me is telling people about us. And I've realized that the best way to do that is to construct a narrative in historical and truthful format.
So were you doing that though before October 7th?
No.
Okay.
No, I was not. But the thing was, I had all this information already, because I've literally been studying. I guess you would call it weird that I've studied Jewish history for fun. Like, I go to sleep watching documentaries and reading, certain things about Jewish history, and, Dead Sea Scrolls, and, the Bar Kokhba, and, the Maccabee Revolt. And it's basically like one big, long Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And most of the time we didn't win, so it's always beneficial to learn your own history from your own perspective rather than what's written, because more times than not, history is written by the winners of wars, and Jews were not. We just happen to have, somebody who's regarded as one of the, foremost, authentic historians, with a guy by the name of Flavius Josephus, who was a Jewish scholar, he was in the actual Jewish army, and, basically switched sides and, let all of his troops die. And he went over to the Roman side, and the Romans, actually let him tell the story from the Jewish people's account. So there was a couple of people that was left in the last battle of Masada, and Josephus was able to record in detail their perception of it from the losing side of it, which typically has never been done. So that's why, he's regarded, in the light that he is, because he's basically telling as much truth as they allowed him to tell without smearing, the Roman army and the great, Vespasian and Titus, and Antiochus. So he was limited, to what he could write, but, it tells a very authentic tale, as opposed to trying to piece together parts of the Talmud, which is not in any chronological historical order. And even with, the Old Testament and the New Testament, you really can't really trace biblical and historical, I believe the words provenance, to each other. So I like to learn from the scholars, the poets, and stuff like that. And I never knew that I was interested in this shit, until one day I was just like, wow. I was like, Jews, we're some fucking amazing people. I was like, I never knew.
Well, okay. So that's the bit. Like, I just asked you where you're from, and you just spent the last 3 minutes talking about like all these historical figures. But I want to talk about you, mate. Like, let's start from the beginning. Like, where were you born?
I was born in Staten Island. Lived here my whole life. Raised by Jewish parents. I have a twin brother. So we were born in the 80s. So if anyone knows what the 80s was like, in the US, especially in New York, it was right during the middle of the crack epidemic. I would say that, my parents weren't addicted to crack or anything. It was just the entire world practically was. And it was the
entire world was addicted to crack?
In the 80s in New York, it was terrible.
Really?
It was absolutely terrible. If you want, watch I cover it a little bit in my episode. I interviewed the real freeway Ricky Ross, who was basically the inventor of crack in America, and worked with Reagan to fund the Contras, and there's a crazy fucking story. But so what I mean by that is the 80s was a really weird time. So for my parents, who were typically like in their like mid to late 20s when they had me and my brother, having two children during like kind of an economic depression of the 80s.
What did your parents do?
Well, my father was an accountant or a CPA, and my mother was a school teacher. My mother taught for probably 45 years. She taught basically 5 different languages. When she retired, she was teaching like advanced Latin. So she's a very scholarly woman. And my father probably uses the most advanced vocabulary that I've never heard anyone use in my life. So he's great. But we didn't really see him much growing up because like he was always working. He spent the time on the weekends when he could, but he had a job in Manhattan. He would leave the city at like 5 o'clock in the morning to get the city bus, and then he'd get home, in time for dinner, and then me and my brother would have to go to bed. So
how old are you?
But I'm 43, about to be 44 in 2 months.
Wow.
Which I can't believe I'm this. I feel like I skipped a few years somehow. During, it was COVID, like 4 years just went like this. It's like, wow.
But I just
lost
man.
like 4 years of my life.
You're young. I'm 53 in a month.
Oh, well, happy birthday. Well, happy early birthday.
So wait, so let's get back to your parents and your brother. Is your brother an identical twin?
Yes. We're what's called mirror image twins. So
wow.
If we're standing in front of each other, I'm a righty, he's a lefty. So that's what that means. So we're like a weird, bunch of twins. There's a very select few that are mirror image where I'm a righty and where someone's a righty and they're a lefty. I don't know. Maybe we have like a gene that like will be able to like have an invisible force field against aliens because of that little slight mutation in twinnyism.
So wait, so what does he do?
He is a real estate broker, and he used to do a whole bunch of stuff, but now he's really into real estate, and he lives out in New Jersey. So I see him pretty much all the time, and we talk all the time.
You guys are tight?
Yeah. I mean, we shared a womb, so we better be tight. I mean, I feel it's weird when identical twins like don't fuck with each other. Like I've heard about it, but it's like, wow, where did it go that wrong? It's like you share the same fingerprints practically, like, which we do. Like, I mean, we used to go to this gym together, and like it had like one of those things you put your hand on to scan. And I was like, and my brother wasn't a member. I was like, scan your hand. Scan that. Doors opened. I was like, here we go.
I'm robbing a bank and blaming it on you. So many things you could have done. So many you can still do.
Yep. Well, let's not talk about it now, and let's edit this part out.
Well,
don't want to incriminate myself, on
publicly.
The thing called the internet. Yep, don't want to do that.
I don't know if we'll edit anything out of this one, but okay. The reason why I'm asking you these questions, which I don't usually ask people about their parents and their family, and it's because, look, in the Jewish advocacy world, you're a standout. You have a certain
je ne sais quoi.
I don't know. You have a certain persona. I mean, you're street.
I'm a badass.
I don't know if that's well. Yeah, I mean, I'm also a badass, but not the way that you are. But you're
with better hair.
I do have hair, yes, but you have hair as well. You're looking good, my friend. No, but on a serious note, like you have. I know it doesn't sound cool what I'm saying, and I'm not trying to sound cool. I just don't know what better word to use than street. That's your brand, but it's clearly not just your brand. You live it. And that is. Yeah, and it's not, from what I know, common. I know a lot of Jewish people. I'm not talking about the advocacy world. I'm just saying, okay, I've never met.
No, Jews in general. I said it on, I know exactly what you're talking about, and let me elaborate, because what you're saying is something that I feel all the time. And it's not like I feel like I'm a lone, voice in a crowded world, but it's like trying to figure out, are there any other Jews that are exactly like me, or what's the closest one? If you had to name, and we've seen them all by now, with what's going on in the world. And like I was saying it on when I interviewed cool guy Paulie Faust, I was like, I have searched the world for a Jew that is most similar to me. And I was like, he's kind of the closest. I was like, I don't, but at the same time, we're like worlds apart. So it's like, I can't think of anyone that even comes close to somebody like me that's street, hip hop, raw, unapologetic, knowledgeable, outspoken, a sweetheart, and obviously as good looking as I am, but that goes without saying. But there's really not many that I could even compare myself to. So I'm glad that I have like a kind of something that stands out, because there's a lot of people that kind of, mirror the same type of person. So the fact that I can stand out, I feel like I can reach the people that ordinarily wouldn't even expect the shit that comes out of my mouth, especially with the knowledge that I have about history and the conflict and how I deliver it in the performative measure while still being informative at the same time.
So even the way that you said that was spoken as a lyricist. And I'm wondering where that comes from. And that's why I want to go back a little bit to your mother was a teacher, your dad was an accountant, obviously very smart people. You went to school. Was it street? Was it like hardcore? Was it like, what was it like growing up? I mean,
high school kind of was, but not in the sense of like, it wasn't anything like Lean on Me, if you had to create a visual, but it wasn't, I'd say it was more along the lines of like maybe Karate Kid, like the school that they were in, like in the way they interact, meets Boys in the Hood. So it's like if you combine those two, maybe it's along the same lines. I mean, junior high school was a little I couldn't be hardcore because my mother was a teacher in the school. And, one thing about junior high school, if you act up, like they all know your mother. So it's like, I couldn't be a badass. And it was like, but towards like 8th grade is when like me and my brother started to kind of rebel. We started skateboarding. We dyed our hair. Like this is very, very just unheard of things to do, like
in the 80s
that my parents would have never allowed us to do. Well, I mean, this is like now, like 92 and 93, so we're like maybe 11, 12 years old, and we're in our final year of junior high school, which is 8th grade. So it's like I remember, like after we graduated, it's like me and my brother both, he dyed his hair orange. I dyed my hair blonde. We were like badass skateboarders. We were leaving to go to Manhattan at like 6 o'clock in the morning to go skateboarding under the Brooklyn Bridge. And 12 years old. Like, who does that? I mean, I don't know if you know. I mean, I don't know how I can relate it to any place like in Israel. But
I'll tell you one place where kids do that. It is in Israel. There's no Brooklyn Bridge here, but the beautiful thing about Israel when you come visit is that kids to this day, still young kids, I wouldn't say 11, 12, I would say like 13, 14 kids start going out and they're in the streets with their friends and it's safe. It's like you can hang out.
So that's why. So that's why it is. Now, let me tell you why I'm saying so that's why. So whenever we wanted to be able to go out and stay out all night as kids, we would sleep at our Israeli friends' houses. Because it was, and I always say this as a joke, it's like, oh, Israeli parents don't give a shit about their kids. They just let them out, stay out, all hours of the night at 13, 14, 15 years old. So it's like they've just built differently. So it's like we would always sleep at my friend Tal's house or my friend Dave's house. And it's like, yeah, Mom, Dad, we're sleeping at a friend's house. Oh, okay.
Have you heard the phrase? It's in Hebrew. Have you heard Yeh Beseder?
Yeah, of course.
All right, so you know what it means. So for the listeners who don't know, Yeh Beseder means it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's like it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good, and that is the two lines that for the past 20, I'd say 20, 25 years. Yeh Beseder. Kilo, there's a war. Yeh Beseder. You fell down. Yeh Beseder. You want to sleep over at your friend's house? Yeh Beseder. The kids are going out, coming home at 10 o'clock at night, and they're 12 years old, as my 11-year-old did the other night for the first time. And my wife kind of freaked out, and I was like, "Oh, Yeh Beseder." I think Israelis have that.
I think it's a certain chutzpah that the Israeli people have from living with an existential threat from all sides their entire lives. Like I can't imagine. I'm sorry to Vero, of course, but I can't imagine what it's like to basically live every day with some margin of doubt that you might not be actually safe. And it could come from the South, the North, or the East, or the West.
So that's a great segue. And I forgot to bring this up for the listeners. Sometimes you do a podcast and it comes out a week or 2 or 3 later. So just to set the context, you and I are speaking 1.5 days after Hezbollah shot a rocket at Majd al-Shams, killing 12 kids.
My heart goes out to everyone in the Druze community. And the way that we can unite as a people is to not let any of their memories go without knowing their names and knowing what they stood for. And these were innocent children that just were playing soccer in a field. They're not military targets. they're part of the Jewish community, so they didn't actually have to serve in the IDF when they come of age. So it's not like they could even claim that they were future military targets, that they were eliminating. There was nobody around. It was an indiscriminate, merciless attack on children. Whether they intended to hit a civilian area goes without question. Whether they were targeting those actual children in order to get the Druze community to go against Israel, say, oh, like if this war wasn't happening, this wouldn't have happened to the Druze. So the Druze are going to go against Israel, and it didn't work because we're all standing united together.
We're standing united together. And the reason I brought it up is because I don't know, in the context of what it's like, you said, living every day like you don't know what's going to come, is like here we are talking tonight. At any minute, there might be sirens. They might come tomorrow. They might come in a week. We have no idea. So I don't know when people hear this podcast what will have transpired. And I just felt that was important to say. But you're right. We don't know.
And it's crazy too, because like one of the songs that I've spoken to you that I'm going to do a remix to, it's like I have a line in the song that actually asks the questions, every single night got to run into the safe room, wondering if it's God or Iron Dome going to save you. What if one of those missiles actually break through while the whole world's screaming that they fucking hate Jews? So it's like, what if one of those missiles actually breaks through? Mm-hmm. And one of them did.
One of them did, yeah. Let's go back. We were talking about Israelis and chutzpah and Yebeseder, and then you were talking about the fact that...
Yeah, and staying out all night. Yeah. I go to listen, when we wanted to, hang out with some girls, it's like and be able to stay out all night. We'd sleep over our Israeli friends' houses, and then they would just let us go.
Oh, yeah? Just like that?
Just like that, yeah.
Wait, but your parents are Jewish, but not Israeli, right?
Correct. Well, I mean, they are originally, we're all Israeli. We all come from Judea.
But what's their heritage? Like my father is Iraqi, my mother is Bulgarian, and yours?
Okay, so my family comes from Ukraine. Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't come from. It did a slight little stint in there during the May laws and the Pale of Settlement when we were trapped there and we weren't allowed to obtain citizenship or leave or anything. Or then we had to subscribe into the fucking military for 35 years and we would never see our families and going off course.
You don't. This is the thing. You don't stop. Every single thing is like you bring it back to the history of the Jewish people. Why have you? But you never. But you didn't do that before October 7th, did you? You didn't.
No, because it wasn't and I hate to say it wasn't as important. It wasn't as relevant because we weren't faced with anti-Semitism from every fucking walk of life. And yeah, I reminded people on a case-to-case basis before October 7th, but never was it more relevant to let people know and the correct way that you present things and the way that, we used to mock ourselves hey, listen, you know that you could trust me for a job because I'm all about my pennies because I'm Jewish. It's like, I'll never say shit like that again because that's part of, an ancient blood libel, that the Germans started, to basically take over Germany with a nationalist movement with the Nazis and expel all the Jews and blame their downfall that they lost World War I and they were absolutely crippled and their economy was in fucking shambles in comparison with all the other progression that Europe was doing, especially with, science, technology, and finance and their.
So Joe, what was it? What was it? And we haven't even.
The bullshit.
No,
bullshit.
Wait. We haven't even gotten to from the 12 years old until where you are October 6th. And I want to get to that because again, to me, it's important that people...
It's relevant.
To me, it's important that people, look, you're a public figure and you're strengthening the Jewish people and they see you deliver information and facts and they see you with your attitude and your approach, which is very, very different. But honestly, mate, people don't know who you are. And to me, it's very important. So my purpose with you specifically is for people to know who you are. So you're in high school, you finish high school. What happens? I mean, what do you do? I know JP Morgan. I mean, but
JP Morgan comes much later. So I'd say I got into I've always been a fan of hip hop. I've always been a break dancer. worked for DJ companies my whole life as a dancer, and there you go. I mean, people out there in E-Town world, he just did the robot, and it's pretty cool. So we're gonna. I mean, if they could see it, like they'd be like, "Oh shit,
maybe
break it down."
Maybe this is the bit that I do the trailer of. I do the trailer, the 60-second thing with the video.
Okay, I got you.
I might do that.
You're like, we dancing on them right now. But so I was always into hip hop. I was always into breakdancing. I was a champion gymnast when I was younger, growing up. So like, even let's go back before even 12 years old. I was competing in gymnastics competitively, probably from like, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. At the same time, also doing karate with my brother. So it was the era of Karate Kid and like Miyagi-san, and also all the karate movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal, even though he went rogue, and I don't know if we like him anymore, but because he's really good friends with Putin. And I don't know if we want to hold him to account with that, but that's a whole nother story. But so combine all of these things, and then, our affinity for hip hop, and we live in New York. So when I'm 12 years old is when I first hear Wu-Tang. And I find out that like the rappers that are on the radio come from the same place that I come from. And I don't think people really, really understand this. But when that happens, it feels like they've given you permission to, now you can try and you can make it. If they can make it, then people from Staten Island have a chance. It's not like only the people in Brooklyn make it. Not only the people that live in New York City actually make it. So it was giving us almost like a little license to try. And that's where I guess I got my chutzpah from, where it's like, okay, well, I like to perform. I like to be the center of attention, as my parents like to say, and my grandparents.
You totally are a performer. I mean, you're performing right now.
Of course. I mean, I don't know any other way. I mean, but this is that. So, but it's authentic though. It's not like
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so even though I'm being slightly performative for the sake of entertainment purposes, this would be the same sort of conversation that we would have if I couldn't actually see you, if we weren't actually recording. I'd be cracking. I mean, I'd be a lot more vile if I knew we weren't recording. I'd be saying some fucking outlandish shit. You'd be like, Joe, have you ever thought about speaking to somebody about this?
No, but I think that's the charm of it, is that it's just who you are. The performance is not. It's authentic. It's who you are. You just naturally perform. You're charismatic. You're intelligent. You know how to string words together. You have a point of view, and you do a little dance. But it's very, very authentic. I think that's why you resonate with so many people. Personally,
I think we all have our own story, as like we start as like one big block of clay, and basically we stand outside of ourselves and we become the sculptor, and then with every experience that you have, it shaves off a little piece, which kind of forms who you actually become as we're speaking right now in the present. So it's like all of those things that might have happened in the past, whether they're good or bad, it's all an experience, and it all shapes who you are as a person. And when you're able to embrace that and then embody it and not regret the different things that, shaped you into the person that you are, that's when you can really excel and you can make it work for you. So what works for me is that I've always been about being an entertainer. I always did want to be, the life of the party. I'm very short, so I have a Napoleon complex. So I have to be, big and loud, however I can, so that, the girls will notice me.
How short are you?
It's how tall are you? I resent that.
It's how look. You're speaking to the biggest Prince fan on the planet. I love short people. So how short are you?
Okay, I'm 5'6".
All right, so you're taller than Prince. He was 5'5" or 5'4".
I mean, now with the platforms that he wears, he was like 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, I was with platforms, but the guy was a fucking genius, and not only a genius, he was beyond success story and such an inspiration. So I like people who are that tall.
And he could get any girl that he ever wanted. I mean, I know people like to stigmatize him with the the kind of metrosexual or
whatever.
Question that. They don't know. But he was fucking Apollonia. He was fucking Carmen Electra. Like, rest in peace, Prince.
That's how much I like him. I have a little bobblehead that no one can see. He's my man.
Fucking awesome. Shout out to when doves cry in Purple Rain.
So, I'm also, I'm friends with Wendy and Lisa from the Revolution.
Okay.
And they're incredible. I should actually hook you up with them to do something with them. They're unbelievable. But anyway, so there you are. You're a performer. You're an artist. This is where you live. This is what you breathe. And you still see it. You still feel it. But now it's just, okay, wait, we're going to get there. Keep going.
Okay. So I'd say all these little things shaped me into the person that I was, whether it was gymnastics, breakdancing, because there's a certain level of performance that you do when you're, competing in gymnastics. And I went to national championships when I was very young. And had it not been so crazy expensive, I probably would have went on to the Olympics eventually. But back then in like the late 80s, to send somebody to gymnastics like 4 days a week for competing. And I have a twin brother that has the same needs as me in terms of, baseball practice or soccer or karate or whatever we were doing. It just got too expensive and, we couldn't do it anymore. So it was like the cost of gymnastics back then, you could have leased 2 cars. So, so my parents couldn't do it and I understood. But I always had the love for gymnastics, and I always stayed flexible. I always can do my flips, and I would do that at parties. And then, so I guess a lot of those things, really shaped me into the person I was, as well as the music that I was listening to. It's like music played a huge factor. And that's one thing about me. It's like I feel music more than the average person. I don't know if it's because of the amount of hallucinogenic drugs that I did throughout the course of my life that I have this belief of that. But I thought about that even before I even touched my first joint, had a first sip of liquor or anything. I felt like I felt the music more than the average person. So that's where I knew that I was going to do something within the music or entertainment field. And I've always been writing poetry. I've always been reciting lyrics. And then when I was like, maybe 16, 17, one of my friends was a rapper, and, I was always like, I could do the same shit. Let me, but always discouraged and, never wrote things down. And then one day I was like, all right, let me try writing this down. And I was like, wait, am I this good? I was like, does this sound like this can't be that good? And then people were like, oh shit, yo, you got something, keep at it. And then I did. And then all of a sudden now it's like second nature. You can give me any topic about anything, and I could rhyme any words to any words, discuss any topic in analogy and metaphorical, presence, or past tense, anything that you want. That's kind of how I got into the Jewish history, because I was a writer for different artists from around the world. Like I wrote for somebody that was from India. I wrote for somebody that was from Iraq, and they both knew that I was Jewish. And I wrote for somebody that was from Lebanon. And when I was researching their history or the history of the Levant, in that area, I was like, wait a second. I was like, the 12 tribes of Jacob. I was like, wait, what's going on here? And then I would start learning, and I was only doing that so I could attribute some of their songs to their history to make it kind of interesting, and I can continue that money flow of them paying me.
Well, what age was this?
This was in my, I know I skipped a whole bunch of years. This is in my late 20s.
Okay.
So let me rewind it back. So I'd say the music that I was doing, or when I was trying to, rap, it was more of a hardcore type of thing. I was a badass kid. I mean, I avoided getting in trouble a couple times, but sometimes I did get caught. And it's not like I did any prison sentence or anything like that. I mean, I did get arrested a couple times, and I did, spend a whole day in a, empty narc van, on Chase, where me and 6 of my friends basically in handcuffs in a hollowed out van as they're going around turns. We're tumbling all over each other. It's lucky that none of us died, because they were going at 80 miles per hour chasing perps. But I'd say all of that shaped me into who I was, into the music that I was doing, the lyrics that I was writing, the people that I was associating with, and at the same time, trying to not embarrass my parents.
But I also know that you really are a very loving son.
Extremely. I mean, I feel like I put my parents through a whole bunch of shit through a lot of the years. Now I'm doing everything I can to repay them with all the kindness in the world that I could possibly give to them, any relief of any stress that they might have, any chores that they might have to do, anything. I want to be able to do all the heavy lifting because I made myself to have this schedule that I have, with the career that I have so that I can allocate that time to them. So I was just saying, even during the pandemic, I sacrificed everything. And I was like, I'm taking care of my parents because God forbid anything happens to them, then I wouldn't know what to do with myself. So rather than me going out and living frivolous and partying and going out, I stayed the fuck home. I didn't do nothing. And I said, I'm going to take care of myself and take care of my parents. And this will be over when it's over. And I'll be a better person because of it. And maybe I'll lose some friends. Maybe I'll lose some pussy opportunities. Maybe I'll lose some money opportunities. But ultimately, my family is what's most important. So
let me ask you a question. Are they working now?
No, you can't. No. What did you say?
Are they working?
Well, my father's working at not pissing off my mother, and my mother's working at not pissing off my father. But no, they're both retired.
They're both retired. Okay, I have another question about your parents. Do they listen to your podcasts?
Sometimes. Okay. If there was a couple of the really famous ones that when I was doing my hip hop only podcast, and for the viewers at home, I ran a podcast called the Verified Podcast. I started it halfway through COVID.
You run it still? You still do?
Yeah, absolutely. But I was on a totally different format. I was only interviewing verified people, only people with the blue check before any motherfucker with $14.99 could pay for it, every month or whatever, however much it is to do it. I mean, thank God I was verified the right way, and the right time because they recognized my genius.
And modesty.
Yeah, absolutely. With the utmost, never braggadocious at all. Not even the slightest bit. But I was only interviewing blue check artists in the hip hop world because that's I was a hip hop historian and I've been in the game, since 1998. So it's all the people that I have associated with, I've never asked them for anything. And I've never said, hey, make me famous, or hey, do this for me. So it's I still had all of those favors that I can call for people that I, would just associate with on the regular. So I called in a whole bunch of favors and I was like, listen, I never asked you for nothing. I was like, come on my podcast. Let me interview you. And this was basically in my mind, let me indirectly promote myself while directly promoting you. And I could help tell my story by telling your story, which was, how am I going to, promote myself when I'm not going out? So let me get some celebrities that I'm friends with, and let me tell you my story while I'm telling your story, and use my charismatic, performative approach to gain fans, gain some money, open up opportunities. And ultimately, my parents, they watched, a few of those of the more famous ones, but I think they watch more of the Jewish advocacy stuff now that I highlight, only spectacular individuals that are doing wonders for the people of Israel and Jewish people. But that's all I'm doing now. So I've switched the format completely.
So what I wanted to ask next was, and this is where I was leading to, is will they listen to this one?
Probably. If I send them a link and say, Mom, Dad, this is something that I'd really like you to listen to because one, they already know about our bond and our friendship. So I think just on that principle alone, they would probably listen to it. I wouldn't have to even convince them.
Which leads me to this, which is a message to your mom and dad, which I want to say something, which is that your son is inspiring a lot of people, and he's doing an amazing job at just bringing hope to people and knowledge to people so that they can draw on his knowledge to fight their own fight. Because I think that's what you do so well, is that you're so well versed in Jewish history, which is kind of funny and maybe very inappropriate of me to say that it's not what you expect when, I'm sorry, looking at quote unquote someone like you.
Yeah. That's what makes me the wow factor.
Well, yeah, but
the wild card.
I mean, I know it's not politically correct to say that, but street Jew, this well versed, someone who can teach me Jewish history. I've been in the army. I've lived here for a total of 22, 23 years, everything combined. And here's this guy in Staten Island who is teaching me about the Maccabees and teaching me about Antiochus and the history of the Jewish people coming back to our ancestral homeland. You're doing a phenomenal job, and you're doing it in a very unique, you're welcome, and you're doing it in a very unique way, which is really inspiring people and arming people in the fight of our lifetimes. And so to your parents, I would like to say thank you, because they've done a really good job, no matter how fucked up you are, of doing good for your people. And when I say good for our people, because I love the Jewish people, and I think ultimately we are a good people, we have our bad apples like everyone else, but ultimately you're doing good for good people, which means that to me, you're doing good for humanity. And I really am in awe of how dedicated you are. And I don't say that lightly, because, we all, as people on social media who are making an impact on people, each one of us in our own way, the impact that you're making it's not once in a while, Joe. I mean, you're consistent. You're a creative, you're a producer, you're a maker. It's in your blood. You need to. I recognize that, because even though I don't do what you do, I'm a creator in my own way. And your parents should be proud of you, because you're doing great, man. Seriously.
Thank you. I'm going to tell them that Eitan said you should be proud of me. And hopefully they will.
Don't jest. I'm being serious, man. Really, you're doing...
Oh, no, I'm being serious also, because it's like, I think the ultimate goal is for you to get, I don't want to say the respect, but I guess the nod from your parents, okay, I'm proud of you. What you've done is either by, success, or by a certain event, or just by the person that you've become. I guess we just all want to make our parents proud, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I don't think that there's anything more meaningful to me than being able to strengthen people. I mean, I've been doing, I have my own little branding agency, and I've been in the branding advertising game for almost 30 years. But Jewish advocacy is something that I've done for 15 years. A lot of people don't know that, because they've seen my stuff since October 7th. But over the last 15 years, a lot of what I'm doing is trying to strengthen. That's my agenda: to strengthen and to give, and to try and, for the most part, unite, and to speak truth, and to contribute to humanity. Exactly. And I think, and that's exactly why I don't like all the advocates out there. Some of them I like a lot. Some of them I'm like, oh, they're okay. And some of them, I just think
I'll say it. Some of them are assholes. Even though they're Jewish, some of them are assholes. But
yeah,
for the most part, we're a nice bunch. But like you said, we do have our bad apples that are very, very spoiled, kind of rotten to the core, and probably should just basically fall off the tree and just kick them down.
Well, I didn't. That's not what I was saying. But
that's what I said.
That's what you said. No, but you're one of the good guys. I mean, in terms of you're giving people. Thank you, sir. But I mean, you're giving, and that's the question that I wanted to ask you. Is I see that in the context of you from October 7th onward, as I've been getting to know you on a public persona level, and also on a personal level, because we're in touch daily. What have you, outside of the Jewish advocacy and before October 7th, is that something that you've always been like, or is that something relatively new? The giving, the strengthening, and it doesn't need to be Jewish people, of course. I mean, just in general, or is this something pretty new to you?
So, I don't know if I should talk about this, but whatever. I mean, I guess there's no hiding it. Okay, so I was like a hardcore Democrat prior to. I mean, I don't even know what the fuck I am right now. I mean, I'm independent. I just want my Jews to be safe. That's all. Right now, that's at the highest priority. The rhetoric and the wording that is placed through our politicians that affects Israel directly and affects American Jews, that's what I hold in the highest regard. So back to what I was saying. So prior to this, I was a hardcore Democrat, or I would consider myself at least more left-leaning than anything. So I was everyone, you need to get vaxxed. You need to be wearing a mask. You need to be standing 6 feet away. You need to be, listening to CNN and MSNBC, and Fox is the bad guy. And Trump is dangerous. And Fauci knows what he's talking about. He's not the enemy. And it's not so I was an advocate back then for, like, I did this thing every morning during COVID called Your Daily Cup of Joe, where my expression was, It's your boy Joe Paul from the Verified Podcast. This is your daily cup of Joe. Pinkies up, coffee down. And I would take a sip of my coffee, and then I would do like a little rant where I would, talk about the pressing issues and, how many people were dying and what people could do to, be safe and, stop being stupid and how long do you want this to go on? I just want to get back to reality. I want to get back to, worrying about, the real diseases like gonorrhea and fucking herpes. I don't want to have to worry about when I kiss a girl, I'm going to get COVID. So, let's all, if we all stay inside for the next 2 weeks, we can kill it. Not everyone go out and fucking get herd immunity and everyone catches. So I was very into educating people from what I saw and what I thought from a common sense perspective, because I wouldn't say a doctor intelligent type of person, but from a common sense point of view, it's like I could pretty much gauge what's safe and what's not. So I would advocate in that sense, but never as passionate as I am right now, with when it comes to my Jews, because there was a whole bunch of people advocating for the things I was talking about, during COVID, but there's only us that is talking about this. We have the entire world that is convinced that we're the bad guys because of this propaganda machine. And I feel like there's nobody that's like me, that it will be hand in hand. And when I throw a punch, they're swinging a bottle. I don't know where they are. And I needed to, so I look at it as what I do. You said something very, very profound where you feel like you're strengthening people. I feel like I'm strengthening people and arming them. I'm arming them to have the audacity to strike back, to fight back, to yell back. Don't be one of those trembling knee Jews. Arm yourself with the knowledge and the facts so that you can throw a fucking Tyson punch knockout. If somebody says, oh, well, Israel is, the ultimate, colonial project. Meanwhile, it's the ultimate decolonization project. And if you knew the history, then you would know. And I'm not going to go into my rant right now. I'll save you from that. But I feel like I'm arming people with the knowledge and the tools that they need to be more like me and less like the Jew that they have in their mind, that whenever they think about the Jews, whoever they think about in terms of if it's, Tevye from Fiddler on the Roof, or it's Brendan Fraser from the movie School Ties, or if it's, the Jews from Europa that, were, sent to the gas chamber. So it's like, or are they the rabbis that are in Crown Heights and Borough Park in Brooklyn? And that's all you think about. So I want them to see the Jew like Vin Diesel in the movie Knockaround Guys. I want them to see the Jew like Magneto, in whatever Avengers or Marvel. I don't know what it is, but I know that he fucking takes out Auschwitz and it's the craziest thing in the world. So I need people to be more like me and less like those people that are just scared to fucking answer back or fight back.
So I'm gonna ask what you might consider a very obvious question with a very obvious answer, but I'm gonna ask it nonetheless.
Why? No, I'm just kidding.
why is that so important? Why is that because so important that we fight back, as opposed to, I know it's a stupid question, it's an obvious one.
It's not. Because the only stupid question is a question that's not asked.
Right, I agree. A lot of people think it's better to hide and to kind of like take a step back. Why is it so important to not do that? Why is it so important to be like you?
Because we're not pussies. We're not built like that. We shouldn't be built like that. And if people think that we are, then we need to convince them otherwise. And the only way to do that sometimes is by force. And I know this might sound like a radical group from, the 30s and 40s called the Lehi, which people would consider, pretty radical, savages. But sometimes you have to rule with an iron fist. And there was we've spoken about this. There was a policy, that Ben-Gurion had, to protect the Jewish settlers, of the newly emerged state of Israel, that if anyone from the outside Arab world came into the settlements and hurt one of the Jewish people, and then they sought refuge out in the Arab nations, whichever one it was, if we found out where you were being held or where you were hiding, we were going to strike with the fucking force of God, so that your government knew that we don't tolerate that. Every Jewish life is fucking absolutely priceless and like you couldn't put a value on it after the 6 million exterminated from the Holocaust. And if we had strong Jews that stood up and stopped the persecution and got the people, where they needed to be mentality wise, more, like arm yourself with the fact that our existence and our survival is at stake. And I trying to
but why
prepare.
Not, but why not stay quiet? Why not just stay quiet?
You know what happens if I stay quiet? Nothing. But if I speak up, I have the opportunity to affect change, and I have the ability to actually do something that, one, I feel very, very strongly about. I also feel like people don't know Jews like me. They don't think that there's Jews like me that's out there. It's like, unless I told you I was Jewish, you'd have no other reason but to think I was either Middle Eastern, Italian, or Puerto Rican, or some sort of, Latino descent. So if people don't, let's see, I'm gonna take a line from the movie, from Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, when Bruce Lee was basically, he was told that he was not allowed to share his culture with the Guaylo, with the whites, with the people of the West. And he said, people don't know the beauty of our culture. Let us show it to them. So it's like, when it comes to, the type of Jew that I am, I don't think people have been exposed to a Jew like me. So I want to show you how fucking beautifully motherfucking excellent I am. And that I'm not one of those Jews you could push around. So when you think about a Jew, don't think about the curls, the payas, the rabbi hat, the Crown Heights looking hat that's all furry on the outside, wearing a weird looking getup. I want you to think about that motherfucker that is in front of your face that will smack the shit out of you if you talk shit about Jewish people. That's me. And people should know that. But I'm also a beautiful individual like yourself. So, but when I get triggered, it's like, people need to know that we are a resilient bunch of people. And there are people I'd like to think that are like me, that push comes to shove, you might take me out, but I'm taking 10 of you to the fucking grave with me.
I think
and that note, we have been there. I'm that podcast.
No, I think the bravado is real with you. I don't think it's for show. By the way, when I asked why not just not say anything, I actually didn't mean you, JopauL. I meant other people. But now that we've talked about you, why is it so important that Jewish people speak up now? And it's a different type of a question, because not everyone is you. But I think it's a very important question, that there are a lot of Jewish people who are speaking right now, but there are more Jewish people who are not.
Right. And if they are speaking, they're speaking like this. They're speaking that.
Right. But I'm not judging. I know how, look, I grew up in Hong Kong. I grew up in London. I served in the army. I was in Boston. I was in New York. I faced all sorts of
Thank you for your service.
But I've faced anti-Semitism. Also physically, as a kid, I went to a Jewish school, rocks thrown at us, security taking us to and from the train station. Being in Israel, you face, and people don't know that, Iraq attacked Israel, Scud missiles in the 90s, but that was anti-Semitism. They hated the Jews. So there are lots of Jewish people out there who are quiet. And my personal agenda, as you know, is to speak up, to just be able to say that you're Jewish, to say that you are Jewish with no judgment when you're ready, hopefully sooner than later. That's me. But why is it so important? Why is it so important? The bigger picture.
Because the people, you got to have, okay, so there's Fortune 500 company that are listening to this. So this is going to be a perfect example. You got to have stake in your own game if you want to have outsiders invest in the dream with you. So if you don't speak up, the outside world, the non-Jews, the ones that have some preconceived notion about who they think we are, we're in a gigantic identity crisis, the Jews. The people don't know who the fuck we are, and that's really why I'm doing it. But why it's so important is because unless people see that we are standing up for ourselves, people are not going to come to our rescue. Not this time, not anymore. But if we're resilient and we show them that we will fight back and we will stand up and we will show some aggression when we need it to, smart and calculated, sometimes can go overboard, which I think that's what it's needed every once in a while. Some, like 3 or 4 people need to get fucking slapped with a very, very hard metal object, and it needs to make the news. Like, crazy Jew loses his mind and, hits 4 Palestinian, pro-Hamas supporting, protesters, and, he's in jail for 10 years. Okay. Sometimes it needs to happen, but people will not.
Asterisk time. The reason why they need to be jailed is because Hamas wants all Jews dead. And if you're supporting them, we don't like you. Okay, carry on.
Right. Yeah, if you support Hamas, you're a jerk off. That's it. It's plain and simple.
No, you're a Nazi supporter. That's what you are.
Yeah.
Let it be known.
Fucking, I can't believe people are supporting terrorists.
But they don't know. They don't
it's
know.
Fucking insane. Anyway, so unless the outside world sees that we're standing up for ourselves, they're not going to join us. They're not going to stand up and fight with us. So I try to be as loud as 10 voices that wouldn't actually speak. And hopefully I inspire them to speak up, because this is everyone's fight. And as soon as everyone realizes that it's everyone's fight, we might actually have a chance at victory. But right now, with people on the, like the Jews that are on the other side, like that, those are the Jews I want to do something very, very vile to first. Like bad. Like the ones that are like, that talk against Israel and talk bad about the Jewish people and like favor the Palestinians. Now, I'm not against showing love to the Palestinians, because there is a plight, and they do have a compelling story and a compelling argument. And we can go into that at a much later time, because that it goes very, very deep into it. But the fact that they would turn their backs on Israel and turn their backs on the Jews here to join the other side, there's a level of destruction that I'd like to do to those people more than anything else. And
really?
Hopefully I get the chance to. Yeah. Yes. Yes,
but you're not a violent person. You're not.
Not at all. No, I want to, sing Kumbaya and like, just.
No, but you're not. You're not. I don't think that you're a violent person. I think what you're saying is,
metaphorically speaking,
metaphorically.
I want to sit them down and teach them the Torah and the beauty of our culture, because maybe they weren't exposed to the correct way.
Well, I don't know if you're kidding or not, but like I don't sense that you're, because you're saying things, but I actually do want to say that I don't get that sense from you. I think that it is metaphorical anger, personally, but
a lot of it is. But there is one person in particular that if I end up seeing him, I probably will fucking lose it. I won't be able to contain myself. But that's why I keep myself kind of out of the mix, because I know me. I know the type of person I am. But for the most part, I'm a very passive, loving individual. But there comes a point where you have to rule with an iron fist, and an example needs to be made. And if I need to be the person to make that example, so be it. I'm going to do everything I can not to, because I don't want to embarrass myself or my parents or my people. But, just one swift punch to someone's jaw, I don't think is that much to ask.
If someone's threatening you, no, it isn't.
Exactly. And from what I hear on the street, they're threatening me.
Oh, really?
That's the old Jews. That sounds pretty threatening to me.
Mm.
If there ever was a justification or a rationale for self-defense, yeah, there was 100 of them saying death to all the Jews. I really was in fear of my life. I had to hit them. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
I agree. I agree. I agree with the fact that words, that's where they start. And we've seen where words lead to, and we of all people know. When you said that it's important to speak, and you said, I think what you were alluding to was, if we don't, no one's going to ally themselves with us. No one's going to And I don't
just like the business world. If you come to somebody with an idea and just expect them to give you money just on the strength of that idea, it's like, no, you have to actually show proof of concept. You have to show that this is actually something viable that you can invest in. And the one way that you know that you can invest in it is because you know that you have stake in your own game. You've spent the money, you spent the sweat equity, you spent the time in whatever project it is, so that when you sit down with the venture capitalists or, the bank, they can see that you've had time served, and the barriers of entry to do what you need, what you're trying to do, are higher than just the person who wants to own a fucking deli. So the barriers of entry for, to be an advocate or to speak up for the Jewish people is just opening your fucking mouth and showing that you care enough to actually voice your opinion. Are you going to change the world? No, but you might spark the light that does.
I agree. I also think that there's one more thing, which is people should be who they are. If they're good people, if they have nothing to hide, and they're just decent people who believe in living a good life and contributing to society and all the things.
There's only one problem with that, and I don't know if you might be able to sense that, but you've been in Israel for a long time. Do you think Jewish people actually know who they are? Because I made a reference to this, that like when we walk into a room, we already have a preconceived notion that they're not going to like us just because we're Jewish. So we put on like an act and we put on like a persona of somebody as non-threatening as possible just to get you to not hate us, because we know that hate is contagious. So do you really think we even know who we are?
No.
It's more philosophical,
type of thing. No, but I think that's kind of what I'm getting to is if you are a decent human being and being Jewish is a part of that, and that is your authentic self inside the four walls of your home, then you should be who you are and say who you are outside of the four walls of your home, because that's who you are. I think that's a value. And I think it's a Jewish value. I'm sure there's somewhere in the Tanakh or in the Torah that talks about being who you are and being unafraid to be who you are. In the Tanakh and the Torah, they teach you good values. So I think that it's important to be able to speak about who you are publicly, not just privately, because if you don't, then you're leading a very, to me, inauthentic life. And to me,
Agreed.
That's one of the things that I like about you, is that you make the, look, again, we don't know each other that well, but you really do give the impression, and it's a very believable one, that you are who you are. I mean, even in this conversation, you're saying things which, you're rocking the boat a little. Not everyone would say what you're saying, but you're being true to who you are. And I think that's admirable. I'm very cognizant of time. So I want to ask you a couple of questions before we wrap.
But I cannot believe that's been an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That was like the same thing with our podcast when we did it for the Verified. It was like, wait a second, it's been over an hour. Like it feels like it was like fucking 18 minutes.
Well, wait till we get together in person.
That's going to be a shitstorm. I'm going to get you high as a motherfucker.
You'll teach me the ropes. I don't want to put you on the spot with this question, so think about it. Who are the people to you right now that you look up to in the Jewish space who are kind of aligned with what you are doing in the context of strengthening people, keeping it real? And I don't say that to try and be cool, keeping it real. I mean, like keeping it real, being honest. To me, that's what it is, that are fighting for the Jewish people, people that you like, people whose work that you like.
It is real.
Nice.
It is real. Israel.
Yeah. You know who said that? You know who did that first?
You?
No.
Oh, don't say kosher.
No. Come on. Yeah, I thought you were hip hop. No, man, you suck. Queen Latifah.
I guess okay.
Wow.
Well,
I just got all that talk about knowledge and being so smart. I just beat you at your own game. Queen Latifah, baby. I'll send you the track.
Send me the track. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Everyone from Flavor Unit, I apologize.
Flavor Unit? What's Flavor Unit?
There's no way you're going to be able to tell me about Queen Latifah and then not know about Flavor Unit. You should look that up afterwards, and then you'll see my level of hip hop historianism.
Listen, the problem is I'm not a hip hop expert, but I still pummeled you. Okay,
that was her clique, and shout out to Queen Latifah, New Jersey's own. She's definitely a queen and a fucking pioneer in the game. UNITY, that's a unity.
All right, question. Answers. Yeah. Who?
What's the question again? I'm sorry, I was smoking a lot of weed. I forgot. Oh, who I look up to. Okay.
Who do you like?
And I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast.
Oh, no. I don't count. I'm not included in this. No, not me.
It's very essential. that I do include you. Even okay, so right before I mention anyone that's on my list, I need your audience to know how impactful you have been in this entire journey and this entire time. So bless you, my brother. I do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Who do I really look up to?
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that the people that you don't mention, there's, it's not that you don't look to anyone else. It's just I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, like just a few people that rise to the top on the spot.
There's a dude named Josh who's a master historian, and he's a map and currency expert. And I literally get like chills when I watch, the history lesson and the breakdowns that he does, because we talk about a lot of the same stuff, but he's so versed and so knowledgeable and has all the proof in his fucking shelf, in his bookcase that sits behind him, which is crazy. So he's somebody I really look up to, from I'll go with Instagram, and then I'll go with YouTube.
What's his, do you remember his name?
It's Josh. It's like XX_ Josh.
Okay.
It's
XX_ Josh.
Yeah, and there's another couple of X's at the end of it. So I don't know if people just go to my page and type in and go to followers and go to Josh. And I'm sure it'll pop up. It's probably only 3 of them. He's an online blogger, debater named Destiny. Super knowledgeable. Just the way that he delivers his information is fucking beautiful, because when he gets it all out really, really quick, I don't have to sit there and listen to like somebody drag, analysis for like 10 minutes when you can get it all out in 30 seconds. He's somebody I really look up to, and I really would love to have him on the podcast one day. But Lee is awesome. The way that he presents, Lee Trink.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Lee.
What do you like about Lee?
Handsome. No, his passion, the way he speaks, he's very, he has so much conviction in his voice, and I really admire people that do that. Like, there's no doubt in anything that he says. Not to say that what he's saying is, 100% truthful or anything like that. I'm saying, like, the way that he delivers it, like, the conviction is 100%. It's like you wouldn't even need to question it.
I agree, by the way. I love Lee. Lee's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great dude. I like the Israeli, I don't want to call them like the comedians or anything, but they do put on like skits and stuff like that. And they are pretty remarkable. Like there's Matan, which one? Matan Peretz or Matan, the guy who does the poetry reading? Poetry reading. I forgot his last name.
Matanel. Yeah.
Now, because somebody like him has like reached out to me and said, tomorrow's post was inspired by what you said today. And it's like, dude, you just touched the brother's heart right here. Yeah. But Tom Perez also, he's hysterical, stand-up comedian. But I'm talking Traveling Clot, other Barack. I forgot the other dude's name. Who's always like eating like popcorn as he's debating someone, or like it's like tell me about the Palestinian cause. It's like no, there was no Palestinians. I can't remember his fucking name right now, and that's terrible.
And I can't either, because I'm completely overwhelmed. But hopefully I'll remember, and I'll tag him.
It's like I feel like there's a lot of people that contribute to the world that I really respect what they do, and everyone in their own right is awesome. But those are some of the people that I kind of look up to. If you guys just heard, my entire setup just fell because I thought this was going to be a video podcast. So I had everything all set up the way it should be, and now everything is all over the place.
2 more questions before we go.
Okay.
One is, are you hopeful?
Yes. Yes, I am. Even though I do have a line in my song that says that I always say that hope is a dangerous thing to hold on to, because the hope that something's going to happen or something's going to manifest itself, or like hope is really dangerous. It's a good thing to have every once in a while, but you need to have the expectations of what might actually happen realistically besides having that hope. But yes, I am hopeful.
Last question, which is kind of more of a request, and I'm really putting you on the spot right now. But would you be willing to, my dear friend, just rap anything you want right now?
Anything that I want right now.
Perform anything you want.
Let's see. Let's see. Should I do? Let's see. I might even have something that I could like spit here right here.
It's not our song, is it? Have you done that yet? I mean,
no,
people don't
not
know.
Yet. Not yet.
Are you ever going to do it?
I am. I am going to do it. You know what? So I wonder if and when we will dance again. The massacre they did on and over dancing kids, and now the masked encampment's terror champion. Half of them don't even know what they chain, and every single night gotta run into the safe room, wonder if it's God Iron Dome gonna save you. What if one of those missiles actually break through while the whole world screaming that they fucking hate Jews? And we just trying to get our people back alive, cause our eyes have no more tears for us to cry. Our Jewish pride when we unite and stand and fight till all these motherfucking terrorists just die. I'm Israel. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's good. Any more that I do, I'm going to have to charge you.
I love you, man. Thank you for being on the show with me.
I love you too, brother. Thank you for having me. It was a great opportunity. Good excuse to talk to you for an hour and a half and feel like I'm working. I wish we were getting paid for this. Listen, I know you have those connections at Hasbro. Make sure they cut out with checks.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I wish I had some of that. I don't have any. But Joe, we'll be seeing each other soon, mate. Thank you.
Absolutely, my brother. Take care. If you need me, I'm only a phone call away.
Well, that's it. Thank you for joining me on I'm That. I hope you enjoyed the chat, and I hope you'll join me for our next guest. In the meantime, definitely hit subscribe, whether you're on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, or any other platform. And if you can, leave a comment, give it a like, and tell your friends. That would be brilliant. Stay tuned for the next show, and see you soon.